Introducing our guest speaker. It's my pleasure. Spencer Snygg is a maker of the award-winning Brainwashed. He did a presentation for us a while back. I don't even remember when it was, on his documentary that is now available on Amazon and other outlets. His presentation is on how to stop a dictator. It's currently in production, but he has done all the research. We will be talking about the historical trends in dictatorships playbook and how to spot them and how to diffuse them before the dictator successfully takes 100% control, which I think we all really want to make sure doesn't happen. And it will also, he'll include question and answer as he goes along in his presentation. So you can ask questions as we go along. So it's integrated that way. And if there's time at the end of it, we may do some role playing on how to talk to somebody who's brainwashed, because we probably all know somebody in our extended families or somewhere of those folks that fit that bill. Also, Spencer's other endeavor, and this is the last thing, is votewise.org, which is his organization that he started. It's nonpartisan and nonprofit. It's a website that connects voters and politicians without advertising dollars getting in the way. And the new version of the website should be up in a couple weeks, right? Okay, perfect. Okay, without further ado, take it away, Spencer.
All right. So we're here to talk about dictatorships, how they come into power and how to stop them. So one of the first things was stay far. Okay, so is in order to be successful, they have to either get on their side or kill or eliminate somehow these different powers. So we have the educated, the legislature, the judiciary, the rich, the military, and the people. So first, the educated. Why do you think they need the educated to, not be there? They question authority. Not only the question authority, but they also have is that critical thinking? Excellent. And they have resources. Excellent. What else? Vocabulary. Excellent. So they can see the problems, they can say what those problems are, and they have respect. So if you somehow get rid of them by either killing them or removing their respect, removing their funding, somehow getting them to be in line, then that's one part. Legislature. So why need the legislature? Make the right laws, exactly. So you need to have them writing the laws that give you power. They can impeach people. Excellent. Excellent. Very, very, very important. All right. The judiciary. Why do you need the judiciary? Interprets the law. Excellent. So if you have someone creating laws that stop their activities, absolutely. So if you have the judiciary blocking your activities, you can't go forward. Enforcing the Constitution, absolutely. So if you have a judiciary who does not enforce the Constitution, then we have a problem. The rich. Money, yes. Money equals power. So you need to have either that power on your side or you need to remove the rich. So that's involved with, what's that? So to the media is a technique to get all these in line. The military, power again. So if what's that? Enforcement, yes. So if you get yourself into power and the military kicks you out, you're kind of screwed. You need to have the military to either, what's that? Protects the dictator and to do what they ask. What's that? And to control the people. And then you have the people. Now here's the thing with the people. If you have enough people, no matter what happens, they can overpower the dictator. But they have to be willing to potentially risk their lives in order to do it. So you could, create fear, or you can create loyalty, one or the other, or both. What's that? Well, that's one way of getting people to either agree with you. Right. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So there's two paths to dictatorship: civil war, or being elected. So let's get into civil war real quick. So you still need all those things in place, right? Still need the judiciary and all that. But the first part of that is getting funding to make the civil war happen. You need to have someone buying you weapons or whatever else. It could be the people in the nation, or it could be people outside the nation. But anyway, they get that money in place. Now, when they are fighting the war, what's that? Exactly. So when you're doing either a complete civil war or a coup, which is a minor version of a civil war, you have to. I lost my place. Money. Okay, so you have to have the money involved. You have to have the people involved in order for it to be successful. So they have to if it's a civil war that's long lasting, you have to have them say, okay, this enemy is really bad. We need to fight them. So that's how over the course of however many years of civil wars going on, you're consolidating the public, saying, we're behind you. So once they get into power, they have the people behind them. They have the money who supported them. They have put in place the judiciary and legislature, and they are the military. Next is election. So the way this happens usually is you'll have a party that is, let's say, stagnant, and they're not doing so well. So they look amongst the public speakers out there and say, okay, who is bringing in the crowds? Who is bringing in a crowd and is an absolute idiot who we can control? So then what they do is they find that idiot and they say, we can control this person. They'll do whatever we say. That is far less common, because in order to get into power through election, they have to have the support of the party. So if they think that person is brilliant and a threat to them, then what they'll do is they'll do everything they can to quell them, to make sure they don't get any power. So, right, exactly. And in one of the case in Hungary, similar to Trump, they thought they said, okay, this guy's an idiot. We can control him. So he got into power. He ended his first term thinking, okay, I learned my lessons. Next time I get in, I could do better. And now he's been in power since 2010. So, Trump, first term in office. They're like, he would say what he wanted to say, and then his party would be like, no, he doesn't really mean that. And he'd say, oh, we should blow up a hurricane with nukes. Like, oh, no, he was just joking. Exactly. So this is an example of that, where the party thought, okay, we can get power by having this populist speaker, person who brings in the crowds, and then we could just manipulate them. But as with Turkey, with Hungary, and with America, it doesn't always work the way they planned. What's that? Yes, Hitler was elected. Perfect example. Hitler was elected. Yeah, apathy is an incredibly important tool, so you can take advantage of it. So here are some guys who came in through civil war. So we have Pol Pot, we have Mao Zedong, we have Francisco Franco, we have Saddam Hussein, we have Vladimir Lenin. One through election, we have Hitler, Mussolini, Putin, Viktor Orban, Recep Erdogan, and Trump. So see, okay, so this is just a reminder of the enemies of a dictatorship, right? So I want you to thinking about these things. If you were to take any one of these enemies of dictatorship and support them in whatever ways you can, then you can break that cycle. But I want you thinking about that. Okay, common techniques. So that's really tiny, so I'm going to have to read it out. So common techniques. One is masked or costumed thugs and child soldiers. I want to tell you how important this is to the psychology of everything. So when you're what's that? So ICE. That's ICE as an example. But when you are in a costume, there is this feeling of it is not me. It is the costume who is doing things, right? So now, if you had the additional thing of a physical mask, then it is even more, what's that? Anonymity. Exactly. So I am here because the government entrusted me to be their hand in this situation. I am doing the bidding of them. It is not me who is hitting you. It is them. I am doing what no one is willing to do in order to protect the lives and virginity of the women of this spare town. All right? Yes. And loyalty. All right. So now the problem or not problem, that a function of this also is once you have committed an atrocity, it makes it a lot easier to do the next one. First off, because you've done it already, but also you feel bad about doing that first one. Well, let me tell you why. Part of it is you're concentrating on that, but if you can make it a commonplace thing, then what you've done is not a crime. It is commonplace. Normalize it. Not just for the public, but for yourself. So you'll find that sometimes victims of horrible things will go on and commit those other horrible things because it is a way of dealing with that trauma. So they're forced into a situation where they commit the crime, and then they continue to do the crime as a way of self-medicating. And it is a horrible cycle. And this is something that they do a lot of times with child soldiers. What they'll do is that the first killing, they'll say, all right, if you don't kill this person, I will shoot your mother, your brother, and your sister. So they do it. And then for the next few months, there's still that risk on the ground. But eventually, these child soldiers become so indoctrinated and so unsensed to it that they feel like they have to belong to this thing. They have to continue doing what they're doing in order to not feel like their entire existence was not wasted. It was not evil. They can't back up and say, you know what, I'm willing to sacrifice my mom and dad for this. So because they've already killed 10 people, they've already killed 20 people. So this is how the masked gunman is critical to, or costume, is critical to success of most dictatorships in some way or another. Hides their humanity, absolutely, and gives them, strength. Okay, target a minority and make them a scapegoat. ICE again. What's that? Border Patrol. All right. Now, throughout history, we've had plenty of examples of this. We'll get into that in a minute. What's that? Dr. Jupiter spent time. One. Brown shirts and SS. Internment camps, yes. So as we encamped, as we put Japanese into internment camps, absolutely. Okay, so this is another cult technique. is the enforcement of a sense of purity and repeating the same thing. So absolutely. So no matter in terms of making a minority the scapegoat, it doesn't matter what country you're in. There's always going to be a minority. So that makes that minority, a weaker, easier target to go after. If you can say, "Oh, it's all their fault that our economy has crashed, that we're losing wars or whatever else," then you could. What's that? The eating the cats and dogs, right? That's another one from America. It can make the people who are believing it not blame themselves and feel better about themselves. And they say, "Oh, this person who's saying that makes me feel good about myself. It is not my fault for the sins of the world. It is X." All right? And X is a small number of people. So we can deal with that. It's not an immense problem. It is a small number of people. We can battle that small number of people. So you look at Hitler. So who do you choose to vocalize about, the problems of the world? Jews, right? Right. So he started with the immoral and broken. So it would be like the LGBT community. It would be homeless. It would be the insane. It would be what's that? Mentally ill. So then he moved to the Jews, also handicapped people. So then he moved to the Jews. So he, what's that? And gypsies, yes. So then he started putting them in concentration camps. But when you're targeting a minority, eventually you kind of run out. So you have to make sure that you don't run out too quickly. So when the war started, happening, he stopped killing the Jews and rather had them work in the factories. But he still had to kill people. So he killed 3 million Polish, citizens, non-Jews. He killed 3.3 million Soviet prisoners. He killed 3 million Soviet citizens. So even though he killed 6 million Jews, he also killed a total of 17 million other people. Kind of messed up. Okay. Another thing is says assassination of competition. So one of the things that Saddam Hussein would do is say, "Oh, generals, we're going to have a party. And, leave your wives at home. Just, come." And then what would happen is at this event, either you'd show up alone and you were dead, or, you'd show up and they'd say, "Oh, this is great. This is great. By the way, I know what you did." And then he would, kill you in front of everyone else so that everyone could see this is the cost of not being obedient. Then you'd have obedience tests. Say, "Okay, I want you to do X." Could be the stupidest thing in the world. If you didn't do X, you'd be killed. Right? What's that? Yes. That's another good one. So in terms of asking people to do stupid things, 2 years ago, I don't remember how many years ago, one of the people who he's now using as a whipping boy, said that questioned this, the size of certain things. So now for the last year, he's having that guy go all across the world, doing all of their bidding, like he's got 6 jobs. So what he's doing is he knows that amongst all of those people, he's really the only competent person. It's like having the nerd in the group of the jocks. So what do they make that guy do? They make him clean the jock straps. They make him do their homework, make him do this, that. He's the whipping boy. All right. So if he looks at his shoes and he says, "Oh, you got the wrong size shoes," that, and he makes them put on different clown shoes or whatever to humiliate him, and he does it because he wants to pass the loyalty test. Okay, fake assassination attempts. All right. So, one of the things I do is special effects. All right. So, we also saw the photos of Trump with his ear. All right. Now, this is the same exact effect as if you take a sponge with fake blood, squeeze it in your ear like this, and then wipe once right here. All right. We look at the photos now. Do we see any single little mark at all on his ear? None. College does not grow back. And also, old skin does not grow back very quickly at all. When we get older, things take a long time to heal. I cut myself when I was 20. I still have the scars. I did not bleed anywhere near as much as he did. Okay. Now, right. Now, it is possible that he did actually get hurt. If he was taking blood thinners, then it is and I was going to get to there. It is very possible that he got a slight nick, maybe, a piece of glass or whatever. Exactly. So if it got into his hairline as opposed to the ear, if he said it was the ear, but it could be anywhere hidden there, then that's a possibility. This bleeds a lot. Especially if you're on blood thinners. So this is just a thing where it is a possibility. We don't know. So they use it, yes. Now the other thing is assassination of competition. So if you see some uprising star, whatever, you might want to sideline them somehow. Yes, exactly. That's a very, very perfect example. So in Russia, Russia is supported by all these rich people. So Putin started off by saying, "All right, I'm going to let you earn tons of money. I'm going to let you earn tons of money. I'm going to let you earn tons of money if you do what I say." And then you say, "Oh, you know what? I could earn some more money. Or maybe I'll feel wrong about this thing. Maybe I'll run for election." Suddenly, you accidentally fall out a window. And this is a very common thing in Russia. Or poisoned. So that poison is more common if you try fleeing. But yes. So it is, what's that? Or if you're in prison. All right. Another one is false flag attacks. So a false flag attack is if you take a you pretend basically that your enemy attacked you. So you could do it with an assassination attempt, or you could do it by blowing. Was that bombing the Reichstag? Yeah, absolutely. That's a perfect example. So the Gulf of Tonkin, that was taking an incident that probably sort of happened, but they blew it out of proportion. So Gulf of Tonkin, what happened was there was a boat that was going by, and they think that a couple shots were fired at them. Same thing happened 30 years later, barely made the news. But when it happened, when they wanted to get involved with Vietnam, it became, this is a massive attack. We need to go, kick some butt. So this is a future thing. We'll get to that in a second. But sinking of the Maine. So the boiler exploded on the Maine. They blamed the Mexicans and started the Spanish-American War. Cubans, okay. So it was in Mexico. So Was it? Oh, I am mistaken. Thank you. Thank you.
The Austrian Prince.
Right, there you go. Yes, yes. Started World War One. So a lot of this, you can see how this is common throughout history, where you can either take something that happened and blow it out of control, or you could make something up. And like with the sinking of the Maine, for example, did they know it was no? Did they know that it was a boiler that exploded because it was old, or did they yeah, they absolutely, absolutely. Then okay, so the Hindenburg, that's one where correct. So the Hindenburg, just quick, very quickly, not to move past that one, is it's very likely it was a combination of sparks from the mast to the body, and the materials that used for the coating being close in chemical composition to thermite. But there are still people who say, oh, it was intentionally due to this, that, and the other thing. What's that? Lusitania. So Lusitania was shipping arms to Europe, and it got sunk by Germans. Thank you, and then Americans. Now it was a luxury cruise ship that had arms inside it. So on the press, you heard they sunk a luxury liner with helpless human beings inside, and yeah, so that was the start of World War One. Got World War One. Okay, so now a common technique is creating wars that require the people then to get behind the president. It's very common. WMDs in Iraq. Nuclear weapons in Iran. This is very common. The idea that you should not question whoever is in power when there's a war going on, and this has been beaten into the brains of everyone across the world. So whenever there's something where you need a distraction, or you feel like your poll numbers are going down, this is a very common technique. Or you need to, you're right.
Something, that'll be it.
Right. Okay, another one. So, in order for you to put, the military into the streets, you need an excuse. You need to have an insurrection. So, how do you create an insurrection when people aren't insurrecting? So, by shooting people. How else? What's that? Domestic terrorists, yes. Right. Yes, raid the headquarters of Antifa. Mislabeled demonstrations, good. Okay. So now this pisses people off, but what you really need to do is to have enough violence that it appears like you need the force to win, right? So now they have been trying so hard. But yeah, so yes. So Minneapolis, absolutely. So now one of the things is how the current administration, like I said, the leader of the current administration is not the brightest bulb in the pack. So where do they go to try to do these things? Portland, Oregon. All right? They're so violent there in Portland, Oregon. They're going to fight back. Oh. Inflatable figures, right. Then, the Midwest near Canada. Oh, so? Are they going to respond really violently? No. So this has been one of their big mistakes. They went after, first, absolutely. So that's a thing. So when they come to Philadelphia, they'll have to be really, 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 really careful. Be very nice to everyone. Don't take the bait. So they're going to try pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing until you break. Don't break. Always be kind. Always be courteous. Don't break, because if you break, that's the end of it. Wear funny costumes. Wear you know. Sorry, what did you say? Singing. Excellent. All right. All right. So we've seen that here. But it happens in every dictatorship. You know, they'll have an election and they'll say, "Oh, well, you know, it was rigged. You know, X, Y, and Z happened," and you know, then they'll find someone who claims they saw something. In the case of America, the people who they claim they saw something didn't refuse to testify. You know, but you know, in fact, when you have so many polls going on, so many elections going on, so many different things, someone's going to make a mistake. That just happens. So they're going to try to find those mistakes and say it was intentional and blow it out of proportion. So here's an example, very, very in I want to say Colorado, but I'm probably wrong. There were like 90. Oh no, it was New Mexico. Was it? So wherever it was, New Mexico, I think, they have local law there where you don't have to be a citizen, only a resident, to vote in local elections. And you know, San Francisco also? Okay. So someone made a mistake, and those people were also accidentally allowed to vote in national elections also. You know, their thing wasn't checked, so that they couldn't. So that was a huge mistake. I don't think it was intentional. I could be wrong, but they'll go after that and say this is a proof of voter fraud. Yes. I think it. So it was one of two things. It was either left hand not knowing what the right hand was doing, or it was an intentional setup. Both are, to me, both believable. Make it difficult to vote. All right. SAVE Act. Okay, so the SAVE Act, I guess you guys know, it makes it difficult to register to vote if, for example, you got married. Because if you're married, then your last name doesn't match your birth certificate. If you're adopted, there we go. So that targets then women and poor people who can't afford to go after those documentations, get a passport. The driver's license is not acceptable in most areas because not like I don't have a real ID on my Pennsylvania driver's license. A lot of you guys don't either. And the trans community, of course. So what party are those people? A lot of those are Democrats. So women tend to trend more Democrat than Republican. Poor people tend to trend more Democrat than Republican. So this is an intentional attempt to reduce voter turnout for Democrats. It also ends up reducing voter turnout for Republicans too, but not as many. And their hope is that you know, we can get. I think it's that the change in documentation would basically reduce voter turnout by 10% or so. So they're going to get maybe 7% of that, or 7% would be Democrats and 3% will be Republicans. So it gives them just a little more to get past the middle. Yes.
Documentation becomes both balance.
Absolutely. So, right. So if absolutely. So if the you don't have the judiciary in line, then the judiciary would say this is unconstitutional way of doing that. Another way, go ahead. Another great example of how to reduce voter turnout. Another way of reducing voter turnout is taking away mail-in ballot. Another way of doing it, which is probably going to happen this next election. What's that?
Like your Voting Rights Act.
expanding the Voting Rights Act, right? So Voting Rights Act, basically made sure that minorities didn't get screwed. So coming in November, we'll probably have ICE agents waiting outside the polls. So there'll be a history of demonstrating if these people are willing to do whatever it takes to hurt you, and they're clearly targeting a certain audience, and just by them being there, it's going to cause people not to vote.
Except that ICE agents cannot arrest a citizen.
So right. So right. So there is right. So there is what they can do and what people think they can do. So they cannot legally arrest a citizen unless the citizen is preventing the arrest of someone else and preventing their duties. So if, for example, so the Supreme Court said, oh, well, if they look ethnic, then that's the probable cause. So if they were to stop someone who is ethnic and you were to jump in and say, hey, what the hell are you doing? They could arrest both of you. All right. So that's then, two people who aren't voting that day. Right. So you'll find a lot of people, just being beyond that 100-foot mark, or, going into that, encroaching on that 100-foot mark in order to perhaps encourage some conflict. All right. Okay, then of course you could similar threaten to kill people who vote. So I don't think this is going to happen, except for intimidation, at the poll we're talking about. In other places, what's that? In other countries, absolutely. They have put up blockades in the only street into town, or they might, like in other countries, they don't have IDs like we do, so they'll dip their finger in ink saying they voted, and it takes a long time for the ink to wear off. So they'll ask people to show them their hand, and then things will happen. Okay, another big thing that is used is nostalgia. So, good old days. Make America great again. So, like right now, Russia is wanting to take over Ukraine and a bunch of other areas. So before he did that, first he would say, all right, well, if you go back in history to, where the Russian peoples genetically, came from, that kind of stuff. We have a history of being there. These Ukrainians, they are Russians. So we should be ruling them. What's that? Exactly. But even before the USSR, there were territories in there. So there's nostalgia of we were, some of it is factually correct, and some of it is exaggerated or religious, artificial. What's that? Yeah, some of it is completely made up. So there is this imagined purity. Once again, it is purity, simplicity, thinking of these, halcyon days of yore, when things were great. And really, when you look at any point period in time, there's always something about life that's great you could look at. Also, horrible things. It's, the world is never perfect, never is, never will be, if it was. Go ahead.
Great but rude.
Exactly. So, they might say that they'll say, okay, it was great back then. Try to be vague and let you fill in the blanks. But sometimes they'll be very specifically about, trying to, if I'm trying to approach a single white male, I might say, back then, women fawned on your feet. You had, you were the king of the castle. You were powerful. Now you're impotent. Do you want to be powerful or do you want to be impotent? Do you want to have a doting wife, 2.3 beautiful children? Do you want to have your own house instead of living in an apartment? Do you want to have, cookout? Is that Chicken in every pot, absolutely. So, what's that? Right. So despite the fact that the founding fathers were many different religions, some some of them not. There's the claim that there was a Christian nation. Um, Now, if you want to get into vagaries of that, sure that the Christian principles of love thy neighbor are in there a bit, but there's also don't trust your neighbor either in there. Um, so anyway, so trying to find some sort of fictional thing of uh, loving your parents, loving the time that they had as a kid, things about the past. It was better. We could bring it back to that, and we can make it better. Censorship. So yeah, so in America we have the FEC threatening to take away licenses of broadcasters if they don't say things the way the administration wants them to be said. They're saying it's if they do it in a what was it, anti-American way or something like that. Yeah, a way of labeling it so it makes them look like the bad guys. What's that? If it demeans the American way. So now you look at how other nations have done this. I want to say the guy in Hungary, what he did was, actually, I'm not even going to say it's necessarily that guy, but this has been done in the Philippines, it's done in a lot of places, where you start off with saying, okay, you can only get interviews with the president if you say a certain thing, and then is that like access to the Pentagon, and then it becomes oh, we're going to take away your license if you do this, and that sort of migrates around to become worse and worse and worse. Okay, then associations to God. So if you can have your followers think of you as a step closer to God than you are, then it really helps the situation a lot. Or fighting God's war. So like Saddam Hussein, he did not invoke God until America kicked his butt in the first war. And then after that, he invoked God in a lot of the stuff, saying, we're fighting Allah's battle and that kind of stuff. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so here's an example of the regular outfit worn by German soldiers versus the SS. Here's an example of the ICE, in 2017 versus how it is now. So you see that the costume has changed. Before it was just a windbreak you put over whatever you're wearing, and now it is it's the costume. Like, do they really need? What's that? Right. So do they really need armored vests? No, but it makes you feel powerful, and it Okay, so how much time do I have? 15 minutes? Okay. So thought terminating cliches is a very common thing where they repeat the same thing again and again and again and make you think about that statement rather than going beyond that. So Nazis used the master race, which makes you think, first off, master being the first and also the one in control. So if you are superior, this becomes the strongest one there. So if you become superior to everything else, then it's okay for you to crush them. And you should, because you are the master. We have order must be maintained, international Jewry, resettlement in the East. Resettlement in the East was, concentration camps. The Fuhrer is always right. We have only one task to stand firm and carry out the racial struggle without mercy, which was a song from Himmler. Himmler. Oh, is he? Yeah. With satanic joy in his face, the black-haired Jewish youth lurks in wait. This is a Hitler quote. So immigrants, yeah. Okay. So Mao. Imperialism is a paper tiger. So basically saying that the West just seems strong, but it's not. Don't fear it. Cured the illness to save the patient. So that was what they would do, is they would take people out and they would basically, torture them, make them confess to things they hadn't done, to as a public way, as a cult technique, public way of getting people to release their burdens and blame this person and say, oh, we need perfection, we need everything smoothed out. So, like I said, purity is a big thing in cult language and persuasion. Where the broom does not sweep, the dirt will not vanish. So that is like you have to seep in everywhere and get out those bad thoughts. Hold high the red banner of Mao Zedong thoughts. Non-antagonistic contradiction with counter-revolution. We use Mao Zedong through, his thoughts to arm our heads. So that was, we must all think alike. We must all think alike. This is what makes us strong. It's a little red book. So he had a little red book of his, quotes that you're supposed to, say this is our font of wisdom. Then after 40 million people died from following what he said, we were taught by mistakes and setbacks. We have become wiser. So it's like, no. This wasn't an accident. We learned from these mistakes of history, and we're doing better. Two-line struggle, which basically says you're with me or without me. So Saddam was like, Saddam is Iraq and Iraq is Saddam. Traitors must be punished. It's a foreign plot. Long live Saddam. We are all Saddam. Leader of the Great March, one Arab nation with an eternal message. Unity, freedom, socialism. The enemy. So then it does religious stuff after that. After the war, first war. Pol Pot. To destroy you is no loss. To preserve you is no gain. So, guess how many people he killed? So he killed 1/4 of the population. Year zero, which means we're rewriting everything. If we have rice, we have everything. Keep it, no gain. Lose it, no loss. And then the other thing was the organization. Well, the organization is making a decision. So there's just like it's a unibody that cannot be argued with. Okay, so Trump, fake news, make America great again, witch hunt, Trump derangement syndrome. That's a huge one in those circles. They call it TDS. So if you hear people saying TDS, what they're talking about is they're saying that the left is so polarized that they can't even think straight. They just hear the name and they go. Drain the swamp, deep state, build the wall, sad, total disgrace, very stable genius. They're not bringing their best, they're bringing crime. Okay, so Saddam, he murdered about 1 million people. Most of them were political opponents in the Kurds. Nazi, we went to that, 17 million. Mao Zedong was 45 million, actually probably like around 50 million from just mistakes. And then another 20 million from people who are saying, this is not a good idea. Or because they had religion. And he's like, okay, well, that's you cannot praise two gods. Pol Pot, like we said, 20% of the population. So now one of the things he did was in terms of like going after intellectuals. Remember, what are our things we need? We need the intellectuals to go online. Who else? The rich, educated, right? Who else? Military, legislature, and judiciary. So, going after the intellectuals, you'd say, you got glasses, you look smart. Or send them to collect the farms, absolutely. So censorship, we have, the books burning, of course, we know in Nazi Germany. So that was censoring, foreign writers, people who dissented, writers who were Jewish. And then this is Trump. So in the when he first came into office, he said, okay, all the government websites, if you're using these words, you got to remove that document. And then if you had the funding, you could go back in and rewrite the document so that it didn't include those words. So accessible, activists, advocate, racism, climate science, cultural difference, clean energy. I'm just reading the ones in bold. Anti-racism, female, woman. They don't have male or men, but they have women and female. Anyway, there's a long list. So this is part of the censorship. So yeah. So in terms of associating with God, you see like plenty of God saved my life to make America great again. Thank you, Jesus, for Donald Trump being reelected. What? That doesn't make you like, oh, my stars. Okay, so now let's get back to, what we can do. So we see, these different pillars need to be supported, or dictatorships can win. Now, fortunately for America, the ball was set in motion for this about 30 years ago, and the wrong guy took the reins. So 30 years ago, the Republicans were like, okay, so we got to start saying the same thing again and again and again and again. We can agree in private about what to say, but in terms of saying it, we all have to agree, or we won't win elections. So if you didn't say the same thing, then the National Republican Party, the local guys are different entirely. National Republican Party, they said, all right, if you want our funding, you have to just keep the script. First Trump administration, number of guys like, I can't, and they quit. So like Charlie Dent, for example, our local guy. And he was replaced by someone who would toe the party line. So if we can get our legislature to not toe the party line, that's one. All right. The intellectuals. So he took away the Department of Education. He threatened Harvard with taking away the funding for research. So Harvard was like, all right, well, we got plenty of money already in our bank, so we don't. That's okay. We're okay, sort of. Columbia was another one. Some of them have caved, some of them have not. So once again, if you can support your educational institutions, awesome. What's the other one? Go ahead. Yeah, sounds like 1984. And also Animal Farm. What's that? Law firms. So support your law firms. Now a lot of law firms are being sued and having risk of being disbarred for not supporting Trump.
Media like Substack.
Yes, independent media. So there's more voices out there. What else? Yes, absolutely. Some of the law rolled over. So now also this is related also to money. So how can you persuade money people not to get behind them? Boycotts, right? So boycott the ones that you disagree with, and support the ones you agree with. So, and that's very important. Exactly. Right. So that's an example of a victory. Another. Who? Oh, ChatGPT. So yeah. So Anthropic. Yes, Anthropic was asked to build basically killer robots. Yeah. So and that's something that 127 nations have said they won't do. And the current administration said, well, let's do that. And Anthropic said no, and ChatGPT and a few others said, like Grok said yes. So if you're using those products, don't use those. Use the ones who are like Anthropic, and that sounds awesome. So look up Goods Unite Us. Now, what we really should do is also push for the repeal of Citizens United. Basically what happens is Citizens United not only allowed companies to get involved with politics, but also made it difficult for companies not to get involved with politics. So what a lot of them will do is they'll give $2 million to you and $2 million to you, and then say, oh, I supported you. And that's not good for democracy, and it's not good for the company. So, but if a politician says, I'm sorry, you didn't give me any money, then that becomes a sudden problem with the licensing of that company. But get money, yeah, that's easier said than done. So Open Secrets is a very good organization. Open Secrets, what they do is they look at the voting record of the politicians, and they also look at who is paying for their campaigns. So you can make your own conclusions from that. So we have legislature, we have no, we didn't do judiciary yet. So how could you support the judiciary? You can, so you can volunteer for local judiciary races. That's local. Can you guys think of any organizations that support people using the law? ACLU, excellent. So ACLU, Southern Poverty Law Center. There's a bunch of them out there. So research the ones that you like and support them however you can. NAACP. So I want you guys to use your own imaginations when fighting for each of these pillars and using them to your advantage. All right, so of course I got mixed feelings about that, but yeah. So okay, so yeah. So with the Supreme Court, there's only 9 people there. It was originally designed when we didn't have that many people. So even back then, it was we'll choose the cases that we think are important to the Constitution, and it's not always been 9 people, but it has always circled around there. It has never been up to like 200 people or anything like that. So what can you do? So if you want to support the Supreme Court justices you like, send them fan mail. If you wanted to persuade the people who are not supporting the your interpretation of the law, then write them a kind, never threaten a judge, write them a kind letter stating your logic on why they're wrong, but be brief because they don't have much time. They're not going to read it, but their staff might. So yeah, if you write 3-page thing, not going to read it at all. So that's a good one. Legislate ethics for the Supreme Court. So we have judiciary, rich people, educated. So we have legislature. We already said vote them in, and also call your congressman. So one of the things that the Republicans have done very well in the last 20 years is say call your congressman. So they will. A lot of followers will call them and say, hey, you did a good job in this bill, or oh, you did a really horrible job in this bill. And calling makes them feel, okay, this person's going to vote. So if you call and write them, you may think, oh, I'm only one drop in the ocean. They tally the votes. Right. So some human being, and in some cases some AI, will look at the phone calls or the letters and say, all right, this is a 1 vote in this way, this 1 vote over here. So if you have, 200 people, 100 of them are Democrat, 100 of them are Republican, and you have, 40 Republicans calling and 1 Democrat calling, who wins? Republican. So, yeah, yes.
I was just going to say, I didn't know this, but apparently the conservatives are really good at calling. And so we really need to beef up our calling game. I love 5 calls because 5 calls give, if you're I don't even know what to say. Sometimes I'm so angry, I don't even know what to say, so you can just read a statement. It's getting logged, and they make it really easy to do that.
All right. And then the people. Now, here is where it's very easy to get involved. There's protests all over the place. Show up, be there, carry a sign. Carry a sign that has, what's that? Excellent. Excellent. So when you're carrying a sign, make sure it's legible from a distance. So 5 words, huge sign. And then when someone sticks their finger at you, be kind to them. No, so don't blow a kiss, because that is just not a way of sticking your finger up. No, so if you can, try to start a conversation. And when you're starting a conversation, be nice and be more of a listener than a talker, right? You're not going to convince them of anything other than you're not an asshole. Exactly. So she said a great one. So what makes you feel that way, right? Why do you think this? All right? Don't explode if they say something that offends you. They will say something that offends you. Some of them will intentionally try to offend you because it's fun. Right. Don't let them. So, it takes 2 people to fight. So now if we're talking about techniques to convince people of things, first off, you're not going to convince people in one conversation. So if you have, and this is where I ran out of time, but I want to talk about how to talk to people who are, opposed in a major way to you, and if they have true logic behind them, personally, I say that's fine. If, however, they are not using wisdom in what they're doing, or facts, then it's worth talking with them and trying to convince them to be more of a thinker. Your goal should not be to bring them to your side. The goal should be to get them to be a productive member of society. And that may or may not be on your side. People have legitimate reasons for being against you. That's democracy. That's correct. Yeah. So I will often engage people who aren't using logic, and I'll have a back and forth with them, and it'll be mildly productive. But then other people will say, "Oh, I read your stuff. It made me think." Whatever. Your goal. So yeah, that is a huge problem of the Democrats in general. They've got a lot of problems. I'm not. Yeah. So I would say that first off, yes, we need to Democrats anyway have to simplify. Anyone has to simplify their messaging, and also realize what things are simple slam dunks and which things are not. So, for example, the Justice Department, their history is all right. We know that in order to go after someone for a conviction, we need truth, false. We can't have he said, she said. So that's what they do. They'll take a number of years to put together a case and have evidence of truth, false. And in the case of Trump, that they had, we have evidence of truth, false on financial stuff. But the financial stuff was very complicated and not stuff that would really excite people. So if you want to have something that everyone understands, Epstein files. Everyone understands that child molestation is a bad thing, and no one should be for child molestation, and no one should be for hiding evidence and going after these bad guys. And that's not a Democrat Republican thing. But because we happen to have a president who, has some history in there, we have one side who's trying to go after him, one side that's not. So when you're talking with people about, say, for example, the Epstein files, say, yeah, go after Bill Clinton, go after Microsoft guy, go after whoever, get them all, put them all in jail. And it's really hard to be against that. So you might not even, so I think if you mention Trump, you may lose them. Right. So that brought up another thing is when you are talking with someone who disagrees with you, find common ground. Whatever you do, find common ground. You hate criminals, you hate taxes, you hate whatever. Find whatever it is that you have common ground on so they can see you're a human being and then you can have a real conversation. If you don't find common ground, then they're just an enemy. And it becomes I'm trying to win. And you shouldn't be trying to win this. You should be trying to help them be a productive member of society. And this is true of both Democrats and Republicans. There's plenty of Democrats who are indoctrinated into thinking a certain way without thinking it all the way through to the end. So yeah, one of the things that we're talking about simplifying messages. There's a lot of them versus us trying to split down the middle, and both Democrats and Republicans are actually guilty of that. So you should fight it whenever you see it in whatever direction. Right now I'm working on votewise.org. So votewise.org is a nonprofit, nonpartisan website that connects voters and politicians without advertising dollars getting in the way. So the idea behind this is to try to find and promote politicians who are willing to say what they truly stand for as opposed to using platitudes, whether it's Democrat, Republican, or whatever, so that we have a better democracy. So that's where my attention is focused right now. It should be launched in a few weeks. After that, I'll get back to work on the documentary. Votewise.org, yes. So if you go there right now, you'll see the site, but it's an older site that we ran years ago, but it's being updated in a couple weeks. So right now it's not updated. There's a lot of old information on there.
Good job. If anybody wants to sign up to be a volunteer for No Kings, 3.5% rule, the more people we get out there. Trump ticked down the east wing of the White House the Monday after No Kings, after he posted like hundreds of times. So probably the Kennedy Center is next. But anyway, so, show up, sign up if you want to help us in any volunteer capacity. And thank you so much, Spencer. That was really awesome. Be visible. Put yourself out there. Thank you all very much for coming. We really appreciate it.